Welcome to Around the Writer's Table, a podcast focusing on the crossroads of creativity, craft, and conscious living for writers of all ages and backgrounds. Your hosts are Gina, Melody, and Kimbu, three close friends and women of a certain age who bring to the table their eclectic backgrounds and unique perspectives on the trials, tribulations, and the joys of writing. So pull up a chair and get comfortable here around the writer's table.
Welcome, everybody. We are glad to be here back around the writer's table again to visit you through your ear bones, wherever you may be listening to us. I'm Gina Hogan Edwards, happy to be here with my co-hosts, Kimbu and Melody. And we are going to start out with a couple little introductions here and a little bit about what kind of plans have we got going on? What's happening with us? So, as I said, I'm Gina Hogan Edwards. I am passionate about working with women writers, helping them find their voice, supporting them, and leaning into their creativity. And I'm here today, first of all, with Melody. How are you?
I'm good, Gina. Thank you. Thank you to our listeners for taking time to listen in. My name is Melody, a scout, and I help my clients find their sense of home by restoring balance and harmony to their lives through plant spirit medicine and my book, Soul of the Seasons.
And let's pass off to Kimbu. Hi, Kimbu.
Hey, good morning, y'all. It is Kimbu, and I am still working on my coffee. So that's who no, just joking. I am a romance novelist and former project manager who helps writers and solopreneurs find time, mojo, and motivation to create, and especially authors creating their own author businesses, something I'm really committed to recently. That's where I'm at.
Awesome. Thanks for being here, ladies. I love this time that we spend together so much, and it's hard to believe that we are on episode 28.
Woohoo!
Yay! Our last episode was a continuation of our discussion about the creativity quest. We discussed the guidepost that we're calling Taking Ownership, which is that place when we have the greatest opening toward becoming our authentic true selves. It's when we start to step away from those that we have learned from our teachers and our mentors, and we're gaining greater mastery on our way toward authenticity. And our discussion today is going to primarily be led by Melody because we're talking about this guidepost in relationship with the seasons as she discusses them in her book, Soul of the Seasons. So, Melody, I'm going to hand it off to you to talk about which season relates to this guidepost.
Thanks, Gina. Before we do that, let's do a little what's up with everybody.
I got ahead of
Um,
myself. I got
that's
completely
fine.
ahead of myself.
She is so excited about this topic, y'all. She just wanted to jump right into it.
Exactly.
Well, so then let's see what's going on with y'all. Kimbu, what's up for you?
Well, as I talked about in the last episode, I've got some new offerings for coaching for authors and writers, and I'm working on my serial story, Transmigrated Terry. One of the things on my plans ahead as I'm looking forward right now is I'm really working to get the rest of my back catalog wide. And so, what that means is having everything available on all distribution channels. Now, most of them are already available on like Amazon and Barnes and Nobles, but I now have a direct store. I've set up a direct sales store with Shopify. I'm going through my books and re-editing the front and back matter so that I can upload the newer versions on Shopify, which means that I have to go back and re-upload new copies of the stories to all the distributors as well. So it's a lot of grunt work going on, but once it's done, I'll have my entire back catalog not only updated with new links to my current website, but I will have all my books available for direct sale on my Shopify store, which I'm really excited about. So that's probably going to take up some energy over the next couple of weeks. That's aside from everything else I'm doing. Like that's definitely a project that's sitting on my to-do list, staring at me, like staring me down.
Wow. That
How about
made
you?
my eyeballs spin just listening to you talk
Yeah,
about
it kinda
it.
makes my eyeballs spin thinking about it, but, yeah, it's a lot of nitty-gritty work in that one, not fun stuff, but I'll be happy when it's all done because 'cause I'm really excited about the direct sales option that we have now as authors, so.
Mhm. Awesome.
How about
Nice.
you, Miss Gina? What's on your plans?
Well, I mentioned last time that I have been learning how to navigate the platforms where I'm putting my fiction, which are Substack and Ream. And one of the things that I'm doing for my Ream subscribers is I'm annotating the chapters. And
I'm
I
so
haven't.
excited about that, I can't even tell you, like, she talks about this all the time, people, and I'm always
I
like, "I can't
know.
wait!"
Well, it's really interesting because it has re-energized my enthusiasm for the story because it's making me think about why I made certain choices in the book, and to be able to
Mm,
share
mhm.
those is going to be a lot of fun. I'm still working out the timing and the actual logistics, how I'm going to show those notes to the reader, so that they can engage with them because I want the readers to let me know what they think of those things. I wanna share them so that they can see sort of behind the scenes,
Mm.
what I'm thinking as the writer and the kinds of research tidbits that I've run into that are fun and interesting. So that's the plan for what I'm doing on Ream is those annotated chapters, and, at the same time, I'm kind of layering in or will be layering in, this is the plan for the fall, layering in the creativity quest writings that I'm doing, somewhat based on these podcast episodes that we're doing, but in a more expanded version. So I'm going to be eventually putting a book together. And so as I'm putting that book together,
Nice.
I will be posting about
Yeah.
that on Substack. So that's all in the
Nice.
future, just trying to kind of baby step it, let me do this one thing and get it down, and then I'll reintroduce another thing. But those two things are going to be working in unison on my Substack.
Mm, that's a lot,
Nice.
though, that's a lot. Yeah,
But it's
that's definitely a lot.
fun.
It is fun. I totally get that.
Yeah.
Totally get that. The annotated thing I'm really looking forward to though, because I know you've how much history because it's a historical fiction novel, y'all. If your listeners aren't familiar with it yet, Dancing at the Orange Peel, and she's been working on this for a very long time, and she's done so much
Decades.
research. I know, and I just love like sometimes when we're driving around in the car, like you pick me up to go somewhere, and you just start talking about the history of something, and I'm like, how do you even know that? Like, where did that piece of data come from? It's gonna be fascinating, y'all. I'm excited.
The thing in this process and bouncing ideas off of you, Kimbu, sometimes yields the most unexpected things. Um, this novel was like the thing that I was working on, but what has happened as I've developed this idea for where I want to take my writing is that this novel is one part of what I'm now calling the Kent Creek Chronicles, which will be a collection of stories that are all set in my fictional town of Kent Creek. So Dancing at the Orange Peel will be the first piece of it, but then I have short stories about different characters. You'll see some of those same characters from the novel in some of those short stories. And so while my publication on Substack, my overall publication name is Gina's Quill, one of the sections within it is the Kent Creek Chronicles, and that's where some of these stories and the novel are going to reside.
Ooh, I
Fun
can't
stuff.
wait.
I know,
I
right?
can't wait.
Yeah, yeah.
That's
So
so cool.
okay, so
So,
now maybe let's get back to
No, Melody has to tell us what her deal is.
Oh, no, am I rushing things along now? Y'all,
I guess that's what we're doing today.
We're
I guess that's what
derailing
we're
all
doing
over
today.
the place.
Sorry, listeners, we're just gonna play hopscotch with you all the way
Yeah,
through this episode,
try to
clearly. So
follow along.
so Melody,
Um,
what's in your plans up ahead aside
well,
from moving and packing and
as I mentioned in the previous episode, I'm in the middle of moving and exiting a job. And in doing that, I'm looking forward to about mid October having some free space and downtime to refocus on the historical novel I'm writing. I'm getting all excited as Gina's talking because it reminds me of how much I love my characters and I'm anxious to get back into the story. and just back into the writing process and creating the space and the energy and the time to do that. So I am looking forward to that.
So are we.
That's awesome. Yeah, yeah, so are we, and I know that's exciting. That's the fun part, isn't it? Getting to writing.
Now that we derailed all over the place, we're back to
Cool.
our original plan, which was talking about taking ownership. This guidepost that, to me, it's represented by this quote that's sometimes attributed to Rumi, but also to others of "I am the one that I have been waiting for," where we're claiming our authenticity and our ownership of our creative existence. So, as that relates to summer, Melody, share about that with us.
Thanks, Gina. In my book, Soul of the Seasons, I talk about the 5 seasons of life in our inner landscapes and as they're reflected in the outer landscapes of the natural world. And that germinated the seed of the 5 seasons of the writing process. And if you go back and look in our earlier podcasts, we go through each season and specifically check into the season of summer where we talk about this in depth. It's a season of great productivity. It is where we land in our project, in our work, in our relationships. They have matured and they continue to mature from a place of integrity and authenticity. And the quality of leadership is important in this because a lot of things are going on, and a lot of times all at the same time. We need that leadership quality within ourselves, grounded in authenticity, integrity, to be able to negotiate and navigate this season of big things happening. Are we in our revisions? Are we finishing up on our final edits? We need to know and be grounded in who we are and what the vision is of our project. Another quality of this is, well, we talked about leadership, and with good leadership, we have to be able to navigate with clarity, but also kindness and compassion.
Mm, yeah.
And yeah, yeah, not the whips and chains, girls. Um,
That's a
which,
different party. That's
yeah, I think you could. Kimbo's got some stuff on that, so check out her stuff. That's a whole other Dr. Phil, but let's go to. We also, although we take wise counsel, and during this time from possibly mentors or other peers, we are grounded in our own authenticity and uh, our own truth with a capital T, so we can rely on our own vision. We talked in the last episode in depth about maps and knowing where we are on the map and using the map that's appropriate for us to navigate through these processes, not only in our writing process but within ourselves personally, because when we operate from a place of authority and experience, and we effectively and compassionately communicate that to others as well, so they are clear the direction we're going. And some of the pitfalls, we call them imbalances in the book, Soul of the Seasons, are when we don't have that grounded authenticity and knowing and truth, we end up with some confusion and chaos because nobody knows who the real leader is, and maybe not even us. So we lack clarity if we've gotten out of balance in this area. And we talked briefly on this, but one of the ways we can miss out on taking ownership is if we allow others to influence us. Even beloved mentors and teachers can do this. Yeah, one thing to a lot of people sometimes are looking for gurus. They want the
mhm.
experts and they want to have people to tell them what to do and how to do it because it relieves us of the decision making process and the energy and the effort it takes to dig deep and excavate our own truth. Um, and there's nothing wrong with having mentors. They're perfectly healthy and useful ways to be able to mature ourselves through our process. But when you get to the place where you feel like you have grown beyond what your mentor has to offer, or that you are grounded enough in who you are and what you are, you no longer need to follow every single way that, and they may not go in the same direction as you.
Mhm.
So that's kind of a nutshell in five element medicine, what my book Soul of the Season is based on, which is a form of traditional Chinese medicine. There's officials for each season. And one of
Mhm.
the officials for summer is the heart as supreme controller. And that is the heart is more than just the physical organ. They're talking about an essence of being, a way of navigating in the world. And when our hearts, not our heads, but our hearts are connected with our inner truth, we can lead. We can lead ourselves, we can lead others into and get them excited about our dreams, just like you guys were talking with authenticity about your stories. And the next, you got me excited about it. Yeah, I want to read about that. And a good leader can do that. So it's a pretty rich topic. And again, I invite you to go back and look at some. We'll post I think we'll post links to those past
Yeah.
episodes
Yeah.
on our website. So, my question is, I would like to do the little round robin here. As I want to know, Gina and Kimbu, how have you come to own and respect your own authority in your writing and writing process? And what may have been some of the challenges? Gina, why don't you start?
Oh, so there's a lot in that question. There are a lot of things that come to mind. So let me start. So I'm going to talk about not just writing, but my voice, kind of what I stand for in the world. And I think that one of the things that really truly took me miles and miles in this journey of finding my voice and finding my own authority and autonomy was when I decided that I was going to become a Woman Speak Circle leader. Now, I did that for about 2 years, and the the intention from a business standpoint was to support the writers that I work with in being able to stand up in front of a group of people, whether that's at a book signing or at a conference, and to be able to speak with confidence and to know what their message is. But what I realized after about 2 years of doing that was that I did not go through that process for my clients and my friends that I hoped that I was supporting. I went through that process for myself. And
Mm.
truthfully,
Mm.
it took me way further toward being able to connect with myself and my values and what I want to stand for as a creative person than almost anything else that I've ever done. As to the
Oh, wow.
challenges, yeah, yeah. It was powerful, and like I said, it was only in retrospect that I realized that I was doing it for me, not for the women that I was supporting. And it was a tremendous journey for all of us. I think we all got a great deal out of it. As far as the challenges in finding that authority in my writing, I think things that we've touched on before in these episodes: perfectionism, imposter syndrome, being afraid that people are going to think that I think that I'm something that I really am not. And then that they're going to call me out on it, and that I'm going to be shamed in public, those kinds of things. But uh, I really think what you said. Melody, about connecting with the heart, and I understand why the heart is the supreme controller in this season, that when you really connect with what is in your heart, that we can let go of needing to have external validation, that we don't have to be performative, doing what people expect us to do, that that's when we can truly lean into who we are and what it is that we want to create.
Mm.
Wow, that's powerful.
Yeah,
And
I'm kind of sitting here absorbing all that.
mhm. I, and the reason the mind is not supreme controller, we talked about in the previous episode, the ego.
Mm.
Mind is part of ego. And the mind is mostly about uh, getting shit done and surviving,
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
and sometimes both at the same time. And the purpose of the mind is to do the bidding of the balanced heart. And when
Mm.
the heart is
Ooh.
not balanced, the mind takes over and ego rears larger than life. I think egos are important. They help us get stuff done. They help us get stuff done. Without the mind and the ego, we would just lay around and have wonderful, great ideas and be blissed out all the time and go, yeah, man. Um, but we have things to do with the visions and the projects and the
Mm.
goals that we see. The mind is there to carry that out. And the heart stays centered and grounded with authenticity, truth, and integrity. It's like that captain of the ship Kimber was talking about in the previous episode. You know, your whole, every, not only you, but your whole crew, the people you work with, your team, feels safe and held. Oh, the leader knows where it's going,
Mm-hmm.
you know, it
Mm-hmm.
knows the path, it knows the way through. And only when we claim that for our very selves can we speak with that authority. And I would say for women, the biggest challenge is also because we are taught to be more support staff and
Mm-hmm.
companions
Mm-hmm.
and to do someone else's bidding, pleasing, people pleasing.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's not as natural for us to claim ownership sometimes.
Yes.
That's so true.
I, I would like to, if I can just take a second to bring something to the attention of the listeners and to also give you guys a warning, you two. There was a gem buried in what Melody just talked about.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll give you credit, but the warning is I'm going to use this in my book because it is so powerful. Take this in, listeners. The purpose of the mind is to do the bidding of the balanced heart, not to be the leader, not to take control, but to do the bidding of the heart, which should be our controller. So,
That
Mhm.
is
there have
powerful.
been so many
Yep.
gems and the things that we've talked about in terms of of the creativity quest and the guideposts. So the warning to you two is, I'm gonna be quoting you.
Oh no, she'll be quoting us.
Why, thank you,
But
Gina.
no, I'm glad you wrote it down, Gina, because I agree with you. That was a gem. Like she dropped that into
Hmm.
like a pebble into a pond, and the ripples were still hitting me. And you were still talking, and I'm like, shit, I need to write that down. I need to remember what she said. So I'm glad you did, Gina, because I'll
Yes.
probably be stealing it as well at some point. I mean, you've been warned, Melody. Like, sorry, like because that truly was very, very profound.
It was such a big aha when I recognized that,
Mm-hmm. Can
and
imagine.
it it brought a lot of stuff into focus. I was like, oh, that's how we continue to do what we do without getting lost in confusion and out in the weeds and down rabbit holes and,
Mm-hmm.
worried about somebody else's hurt feelings. Waddy wad.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but how we also carry it out with compassion and kindness, because
Mm-hmm.
the heart is all about compassion,
Yeah. Yeah.
about truth. It's about speaking the truth with love, not just speaking the truth with a 2x4 and beating somebody over the head with it, including ourselves, but speaking the truth with love. We all need to hear the truth spoken clearly and directly.
Even when
Without
it's a
that,
hard truth.
Yeah.
especially when it's a hard
Mm-hmm.
truth,
Yep.
Yeah.
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 and not all entangled with the mind's rationalizations or expectations. It's like, nope, here it is. It's sort of like that
Mm-hmm.
map we were talking about.
Mm-hmm.
If you're trying to navigate uh, on the map that's not really yours, or you've spilled coffee on it, and or if it shifts, you know, like you were talking about earlier, Gina, um, it changes the whole perspective. Maybe not change your vision, but it changes the whole perspective of what you're doing and where you're going. And we don't expect, when you were talking about women speak, you were thinking it was going to lead down one direction, but it didn't. And
Mm-hmm.
I would say the same thing happened with me in plant spirit medicine. I got super excited. I loved the medicine. I took the rigorous 2-year training and then another year of internship for becoming a plant spirit medicine healer, which I'm still loving doing and being a part of. But I was meant to write this book. That was the real reason I took plant spirit medicine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. That's. Mm-hmm.
And this book would never have been written without that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that I wouldn't be where I am in my writing and this new enthusiasm for my writing if it hadn't been for Woman Speak.
Yeah.
So Melody, we
So
can't
Absolutely.
much of
we
that.
can't let Kimbu like
Oh, heck no.
slide out of answering the
Well,
question.
this has been
Yeah.
great. Thank you, listeners.
Good
Darn it, they're
try.
on to
Not
me.
happening.
Yeah, so Kimbu, how have you come to own and respect your authority in your writing and the writing process, and or what have been your challenges?
So, as most people who know me know, I practiced Buddhism for many years, and one of the most difficult lessons of Buddhism is that attachment leads to suffering. And a lot of people think that that means you need to not be attached to anything, that you should have no emotions. Like, you can, I always tell newbie Buddhists, because they're like, I have no attachment, I have no feelings about this, and I'm like, no, you're
Yeah,
just pretending you're not human. That's not the
right.
same thing at all. But when you were talking about it, what the phrase that kept coming up for me, and I even wrote it down, is the idea of letting go.
Mm,
And letting go of attachments for me has been very important in this process of becoming my own leader, becoming my own captain of my own ship, and understanding, uh, taking ownership of my voice and my plans and my hopes and my dreams, because I have been using other people's maps for so long. And I've been taught for so
mm,
long that I had to use their maps or I would
mhm.
end up lost, right?
Well,
And maybe for a little while that was true, but eventually, as you said, Melody, my path shifted. My things for me internally as a person changed, but I kept clinging to those maps. Like, oh, this map got me where I wanted to be. Surely it will get me to the next place I want to be. But no, no, that map was not for me. That map was another person's map, and it was helpful. And, it got me, through the rocky waters, or whatever metaphor, analogy thing that you want to use there. But being able to let go of previous expectations. And Gina, you kind of mentioned that with talking about women speak, like your expectation. And I remember you going through the training, like your expectation was going to be this one thing, and this is how you're going to implement it, and this is what you're going to do. By the
Mm-hmm.
time you got through the whole process, your map had changed.
Yes.
And so, but and you embraced it, like unlike me, you weren't like clinging to the side of the ship like, don't leave me here.
Oh, I clung
But
for a while.
you clung.
Yeah.
I think it's just human nature, to be honest with you. But yeah, letting go has been my biggest issue, because holding on to the side of the ship, we're talking about the heart balance, and I was unbalanced by doing that.
Mm-hmm.
I was not trying to save myself. I was not trying to find my own path. I was not following my own map. And so letting go, to me, is has been a big part of the process of taking ownership and being my own leader and finding my own voice and authenticity. Because to do that, I had to let go of so many things I thought were important to me or thought I needed to do, but weren't.
I have to thank both of you. In our last episode, Melody spoke about an example of having her foot in two places at one time, basically being at two guideposts in the process. And what you have just demonstrated, Kimbu, in your answer to this question is how a preceding guidepost or phase supported you in getting you to this guidepost. You talk about letting go. Well, we've already done an episode about releasing. And so, unless you had
True.
gone through that guidepost, unless you had done that letting go, you couldn't have gotten to this guidepost. So, thank you for sharing things in a way that help us illustrate what this creativity quest really is all about.
Oh, absolutely, because it also reminded me about how we can use the strength of the other seasons and the passages of the creativity cycle to help us through what we're doing now.
Mhm.
With in the of spring, we're talking about getting grounded in our vision and putting down roots, and summer helps mature that. And the season of spring is about fluidity and flexibility, strength with flexibility. And if we become too rigid, I had this particular vision back here, and it was really good, and probably at the time it was fine.
Mhm.
It was good for us at that point. But if you cling to it and become too rigid, can't let go of it, we bring suffering on ourselves. We lose passion for what we're doing. It doesn't
Mm,
become fun anymore. It becomes a chore. And the people we're trying to work with can see it.
that's true.
Mm.
That's so true.
Well, ladies, I know I've said this before on episodes, but I think that might be our best one. It's
Yeah.
great conversations here.
Mm.
Listeners, we appreciate you coming along in these conversations that we have together. This podcast was born out of us sitting around a table talking about writing. And we were like, let's just
We
share
should
this with
record this.
people. Yeah. So we want to remind you that a lot of the things that we've talked about in this particular episode, we've gone into greater depth about in previous episodes. And we will link to those on our website for the podcast, which is aroundthewriterstable.com. You can also listen to this podcast on your other platforms such as Spotify, Apple. I can't remember all the names of
YouTube.
them, but
YouTube
YouTube.
now. We're
Oh,
on YouTube.
yes. And thanks to Kimbu's rigorous hard work, she has gotten our past episodes up on YouTube as well, so you can listen there if you would like. We will be attaching, in addition to resources at the bottom of the page on the website, any worksheets that will go with this. Leave us a comment there or on um, your podcast provider. Give us a review, a thumbs up, whatever you can to get the word out that you've enjoyed this podcast. Share it with friends and other writers, and we appreciate you being here. And we look forward to talking with you again next time.
Yeah,
Bye.
thanks, y'all.
Thanks,
Bye.
everybody.
Thanks for joining us around the writer's table. Please feel free to suggest a topic or a guest by emailing info@aroundthewriterstable.com. Music provided with gracious permission by Langtree. A link to their music is on our homepage at aroundthewriterstable.com. Everyone here around the writer's table wishes you joy in your writing and everyday grace in your living. Take care until next time.